Welcome back. Are you new to FPV?
Yes, I am.
What does FPV mean?
First person view.
Very good. That's the first step. So if you want to, build a drone, learn about them, you've been thinking about it, you want to do it, well, this is the video to just help you understand all the simple things or the complicated things. When I first got into it, I got really confused with all the different parts and what they do and what I need. It's not as simple as just, you can go and get a binded fly, and trust me, I've gotten a lot of them, and they're never been as good as something that I've made myself. And that's kind of sad, because you'd figure if companies have been working so long making these things that they could put something half decent together, but you just build your own and you get to pick your components. And it just ends up being a lot more fun. Today, we're just gonna show you the parts one by one, what you have to get, what it does. Before you even start getting parts, think about what appeals to you. There's different styles of flying. Do you know what those styles are? Let's take a guess.
We have freestyle piloting. We have long distance. We have racing. And we have a fourth one.
Yeah, something that you're excited about or that you thought would appeal to you.
What's that? Freestyle.
Cinematic.
Cinematic flying.
Cinematic, like doing like beautiful videos of stuff and the wife is calling and we're ignoring it. Yeah, you want to say what appeals to you? Do you want to like jump and flip and do rolls through the air? That's me. I wanna just go nuts and spin and flip. I want to be an air ballerina. Do you want to fly steady, smooth, and catch nice video? Do you want to race? Do you want to just be able to go as fast as you can through obstacle courses? Or like, do you want to go long range, which is just like you just go forever? I'd find that boring, but to each their own, right? You have to figure out what it is that you want, and then you have to build according to that. Everything on this channel is going to be sub 250. I'm in Toronto, and there is no decent place to fly with no one around. So I have to go to parks and stuff, and there's kids, and I don't, you could still hurt someone with a little drone, but if you're flying like a 5-inch or something big, you could really hurt someone. So we're building these little ones, and yeah, I like freestyle. So let's look at the parts. There's the style that you want, so accordingly you're gonna buy all these parts according to that style. And that's what's so cool about FPV. It's fully customizable. Like, every part you can get different things. So you're gonna start off with a frame. Some frames are gonna be built to be stronger, some are gonna be lighter. The lighter a drone is in general, you get sometimes better performance, and the weight, also if it's light and it hits something, its chances of breaking are much lower. If it's more like strong, then it's gonna take hits better. Then you have the motors. Different sized frames go with different motors. You cannot get huge motors and put them on a tiny frame, because even though you'd think maybe that'd be great, I'm gonna take a big motor, stick it on a little frame, it's gonna have so much power, but it'll be totally unbalanced, you won't be able to control it, and you're better off starting off a little bit slower, and then you get the speed later once you have the control. Just like we were talking about motorcycles. You get a 250 motorcycle, and you learn how to drive and everything, you get an old one, and then later you get a 600, a sports bike. But you can't just, I remember the first time I got on like a sports bike after driving like my old classic bike.
That's a little scooter.
The first time I hit the brakes, I thought I was gonna die. Because it was just like with my old motorcycle, it had drum brakes, and you would like squeeze the lever.
As you can.
I'd be like, yeah, it stopped. Like you make it. But then with the newer bikes, they have like car brakes basically. You hit them and you're like, whoa! I almost flew over my bike. Anyway, so motors. And everything combines too. There's different levels of power. You find motors that are compatible with the size frame that you're getting. There are motors for different batteries also. So you have to decide what kind of battery are you going to be. Are you going to be doing like 1S, which is like really not that powerful, or like 6S, which is like really powerful? With these motors, they have two numbers on them, and the first number is the stator size. So it's the size of the stator, or the size of the motor. And then the second number is the speed, the kV, is how fast the motor spins. So I think that's what it is. If it isn't, I'll be torn apart in the comments below. But I believe the first number is the size, the second number is the speed. So lower speeds will be used for higher powered batteries, and then higher speeds will be used for lower power batteries. So you have to take into consideration the kV and the size. You have smaller motor size for a smaller drone, a larger motor for a bigger one, and the more power the battery has, the less kV the motor has. Very nice. Then we have our camera. So you see everything with your camera. Another thing you have to consider is the camera size. So with all these things, it's not as simple just, oh, I like those motors, I'm gonna buy them. Oh, I like the way that camera looks, I'm gonna buy it. If you're flying a sub 250 drone, most likely you're gonna be using a micro or nano camera. So there's micro cameras and then nano cameras. And micro and nano cameras are small. Then do we have a big one to show you the difference? So now look at the size. Look at the size of this camera compared to this camera. Yeah. Big, small. So if you were to be building a tiny drone and every gram counts, this is going to be too big for it. It's going to be too heavy. So you have to make sure when you're getting your cameras, if you're building micros or like small ones, you're going to be using a micro or a nano camera. And the nano cameras don't really look as good as the full-size cameras, but they're way lighter, so give take. Then what you're going to need is your VTX. And what the VTX does is the VTX sends the video from the camera to your goggles. So this is going to have an antenna on it, and they often come with a little kind of dinky antenna. So you see that? And what this does, what the VTX does, there's different types of VTXs too. There's some that are super powerful for flying further. There's some that are not as powerful. A super powerful one isn't that great on a tiny drone because we're not going to be going so far. Smaller drone, smaller batteries. Let's say we're only flying 5 minutes, so we can only get like 2 minutes away. So we don't have to worry as much about the video not being able to go as far. With the VTXs, you can get bigger ones, you can get smaller ones. One of the best things that you can do to upgrade your setup is going from one of these to one of these. So this is a rush tank antenna, and I really like these antennas a lot because I think you get 2 for 40 bucks, and they have like a thing on them. Like when you get into an accident, sometimes this will pop off, and those ones have like a locking one, so they won't pop off. And just changing from this to a better antenna like this one, it makes a big difference in your video quality, and it's nice to see nicely, especially considering that we are on analog. Digital, it's all kind of in one system. The VTX is basically the digital system. So you would have the, it's a lot bigger, it's in a case, and you have the camera, and it would work like that digitally. But with analog, you have all sorts of different VTXs, small ones, big ones, stronger ones, weaker ones. Sometimes they're even built into the flight controller. So that's what we're going to look at next. The ESCs and the flight controllers. The ESCs are basically like this. Back in the day, or for the most part, other than some racing setups, people are mostly flying all-in-ones. So this is a board that has 4 ESCs on it, and the ESCs talk to the motors. So the ESCs tell the motors to spin, right, left, power. They control the motors, and they also, that's what they do. They control the motors. There's a gyro somewhere. I don't know if it's on the ESCs or on the flight controller, but it helps like balance everything, but that's more technical, and I'm just going to keep this simple because I'm a simple person. You can get them in stacks, so lots of the time there's these stacks, so you get your ESC stack, you get your flight controller, and you can connect these stacks together, and they just make it a little bit easier. If anything then goes wrong with any of the ESCs, you can replace the ESC board and your flight controller is still good. If your flight controller goes, you can just replace the flight controller and your ESCs are still good. But now what's becoming more popular and more the future is all-in-one. So something like this. This is a flight controller with 4 ESCs built into it. So it has everything. It has your ESCs, it has your flight controller. And the flight controller is like the brain of the drone. It's what tells everything what to do. The camera gets connected to the flight controller. The flight controller gets connected to the ESCs, and the flight controller gets connected to the VTX. And basically the picture comes into the flight controller, sent to the VTX, and the VTX sends it to your goggles. Just like the VTX sends the signal to your goggles, the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the receiver. So the receiver sends the signal to your radio. VTX, video, signal to your goggles, and receiver sends the signal, radio signal, to your radio. This then also gets connected to the flight controller, and once it's connected and everything is set up nicely, you have the video signal from the VTX going to the goggles, and you have your receiver. Well, your radio tells your receiver what to do, and that's how you move the drone around. Those are all the main parts. Then you have propellers, so you can choose different types of propellers. Same thing with receivers. There are different types of receivers. There's different companies that make them. So when you buy your frame, you'll usually get standoffs. You'll get different screws and whatever that are the right ones to use with it. There's usually M1, M2, or M3. And for me, because I'm doing micros and like sub 250 drones, everything is like M2. So it'd be good to order some M2 screws, have a bit of like wire, so that you can, you know, if anything goes wrong or whatever, you can just replace it. Certain receivers have larger antennas that you have to connect to your drones too. There are new systems now though that have smaller, they have basically built-in antennas, and they don't go as far as an antenna like this, but they still can go like 3 kilometers or something, so that's pretty good. And those are your pieces. That's everything. So let's see. What did David learn?
We have motors.
And what are the
4 motors.
Yes. And what are the numbers on the motors mean?
One is power and the other is
one is size.
Size.
And the
size
other
of the
is speed. And now the wife is home. Oh. Hi, Mama. So we got our motors. Now what's this thing?
FTX.
VTX.
VTX.
Video
transmission.
Sure.
Extreme.
Yeah. Video transmission extreme. Very nice. And what does the VTX do?
It sends the video signal from our camera to our goggles.
Very good, very good.
At work, my love.
When you're looking for a frame, what are you considering?
That was so fast!
Avery.
We want to consider what we're using the drone for, how big we want our drone to be, and that's it.
Little ones can be just as fun as big ones. Big ones just cost more and hurt you more when they break.
That's a nano camera.
Very good. I believe it
And
is.
it's analog, right?
Yes, it's analog. So with analog, you're going to have kind of not as good picture. You're going to have breakout, but there's going to be less latency. So what is
I
this?
forget what it's called.
What
That's
are
the main
these?
brain.
No. So
Oh,
you see
it's-
this? It has all those different parts.
Yeah.
So that's for the motors to connect. So you connect the motors. The motors are always connected by 3 wires. And let's say you connect it and the motors are not turning the way you want to. You can program them, or you can just switch 2 wires, and then what will happen is the motor will then be spinning the other way. Very nice. So these is the ESCs. controls the
electronic
motors?
control system.
Oh, wow.
Probably.
Probably,
Maybe.
sure. Electronic control system. We're gonna really mess with people. And then this.
That takes the controls from our
Everything.
controller.
Everything.
Yeah,
This is the flight controller.
flight control.
So the flight controller is like the main part. The ESCs get connected to it, the VTX get connected to it, the camera gets connected to it. Everything gets connected to the flight controller. It is like the brain of the thing. It's like the processor. And then, what is this?
Dreaming of a soul.
Avery. I'm letting her watch Moana so that she'll be quiet.
Grapes and Mulan.
Now what's this?
The receiver.
Very good. And what does it do?
It receives the signal from our controllers,
From our radio.
from our radio.
And that moves it around and stuff. So we tell it what to do when we move the sticks around. This reads it, sends it to the flight controller, makes it spin and turn. Okay, so propellers also, there'll be 3 numbers usually, and the numbers will be the length, the pitch. The pitch is going to be like how much the thing is bent. So if it's bent like a lot and there's a more aggressive pitch, it will kind of have more power, but it'll also be a little bit harsher on the drone. If you on the motors and everything, if it has more of a less of a pitch, it'll be a little bit less aggressive, but
Smoother flight.
yeah, more efficient and everything. Click on this next video to watch us take all those parts and turn it into a real drone. Yay! Oh, you know, if you're not ready for the commitment of subscribing, that's understandable. That's understandable. Just like the video. Just do that. Can you do that for us, please? Just like it.